Hello, good morning, friends. I hope you are able to see my picture on corner as well as first PPT slide on the your end, maybe mobile phone or desktop. I request you maybe during the lecture, maybe 10 slide or 25th slide. Uh, you please take the screenshot and send it to me so that I will make means I can understand that people are getting means they are receiving the everything properly. That I want to make the sure because some of the students they sent me message that they are not able to see the PPTs, but I suppose that many people are able to see PPTs as well as me, and they are able to listen audio means, on some comfort level, and I I suppose that whatever material I am sharing on your WhatsApp, you are it and writing it into your notepad copy, and you are trying to understand the things. See, the subject is design subject, so certain things are there definitely. And here, whatever techniques you are learning, the main thing is that main advantage is that here you are learning how to means use logic to solve some problem. So this is a actually it is a attitude. You are developing your attitude to solve some problem. So so I suggest you do not miss simply study the subject in terms of passing and all that. You study for building your attitude also. So what will happen uh, is that uh, uh, means what we are doing, we are learning different components, we are learning the algorithms, we are trying to interpret the algorithms, and we are trying to integrate them. Yes, we are clubbing them together, and that is what happens in the software industry. Software, a bigger software is not built into one company or premises. It is always divided into some parts, and it is given to the, it is outsourced, that is the term. It is outsourced to different companies. So documentation is very important. So before beginning, uh, I request you please raise your hand so that I will understand. Miss, you are able to receive me. Thank you, Sakshi, Nayan, Hriday, Anishraj, Gargi, Chetakshi, Chinmay, Sudhanshu, Sonal, Umang, Dhanashri, Aishwarya, Sampada, Sachin, Suyog, Prajwal, Tanuja, Saurabh, Shivani Joshi, Khushbu, Sanskar, Akshay Kumar, निशा, राधिका, सेजल, मंदार. अरे मंदार तू पेपर नाही दिला रे. Tejas Wag and Umang Mantri. Thank you. So I begin. So my point was that the aim of engineering is not simply learn the 45 subjects. There are there might be 41 subjects which are of no use to your for your profession, because there is nothing useful. You have to take use of the things. But the ability to build, to analyze the things, analyze the problems, analyzed, and to look at the problem and the solutions, different variety of solutions. There are advantages, disadvantages, limitations, like. So that is what we learn. I don't think that you will be in some company where you will be building some compiler. That is not there. That is not. But you will be definitely working as a systems engineer, software engineer. So that time you will need that skill, how to integrate the different things. So anyway, today I will try to touch with one topic. There is agenda. That we are going to understand what is a canonical LR parser. Actually, it is a bottom-up parser. In this unit, we are learning about the bottom-up parsers, their comparison, differences. Then we are already familiar with the LR0 atom. We shall try to understand what is the definition of the LR0 atom. Then we know how to compute the go-to and closure of LR0 atoms. But here we shall try to understand how to compute go-to and closure of LR1 atom. Now, the computation of LR0 atoms in terms of go-to and closure functions is same. Minor modification is there, and that too we have to use something called as a lookup symbol. We shall see that. Actually, we have seen the definitions in beginning, that what is lookup and what is a prefix, what is a viable prefix. But you go in deep into the subject, and then you will find that you are clarifying the previous definitions which you learn maybe in TOC and in beginning of this subject. So again, we shall see the concept of the viable prefix in a little detail way. Then one point, that limitation of the top-down parsers, and very important point, that is a parsing conflicts. Means there are different types of parsings. Conflicts are there. One is called as a shift-reduce conflict, and second one is called as a reduce-reduce conflict. That we are going to see. So let us begin with the definition. This is LR1 parser, means that simply it is a, see, don't get confused. For example, we type something SLR1 parsing table. Actually, it is a SLR parsing table. One is nothing but it is a lookup symbol. And normally we deal with the one lookup symbol. We cannot work on the K lookup symbols. It is not possible to do the manually. But if you use some tool like YACC, then you can work on the, because as a human, we cannot compute that much complex things. It is whatever we are learning here is concept, fundamental, and same techniques are applied to the LRK grammars, means SLR3 grammar or LR4 grammar, something like that. So we shall see what is that lookup. Lookup is nothing but whatever you generate in a first and follow set. We know how to compute the first and follow set. So those things, those atoms or elements of those sets are called as a lookup. So that is the concept. So lookup means what? It is simply terminal. Yeah, every grammar has something called as a non-terminal and terminal. Lookup is nothing but the terminal, but it is with respect to some non-terminal. Every non-terminal generates some terminal. So let us say this definition is LR parser, LR1 parser. Normally we call it as a LR parser only. It is a non-recursive ship-reduce bottom-up parser. It is also called as a LRK parser. It depends on how number of lookup heads we consider at a time. Now, whenever we say CLR, means canonical LR parser and LR parser, actually same term is used. But if you are using lookup head with LR parser, means canonical LR parser, then it becomes different parser. We shall see that. So once we understand what is a CLR parser, and then it is very easy to build a LR parser. Whatever the CLR parser parsing table is there. So in parsing table, states are there. If we merge some common states, whatever states are there, which are common states, just like a DFA, then we can reduce the size of the parsing table. And whatever the new parsing table becomes is called as a LALR, that is a look ahead LR parser. And you know what is the meaning of L and R. Now, we have to understand what is the difference in LR0 atom and LR1 atom. So LR0 atom, we know what is that. Every non-terminal has some production on the right hand side is there. Some string is there. We put dot in the beginning and we try to ship that dot one place ahead, one place ahead, one place ahead until we reach end of the right hand side of that production rule. So the shifting of the dots in a given production or rule is nothing but LR0 atom. And just if we add look ahead to that LR0 atom, means LR0 atom plus look ahead is called as a LR1 atom. So that is technical theoretical definition. Now what is importance? Importance is that it gives extra ability to decide what action to take when there are conflicts. First, we have to understand what is a conflict. In previously, I have already given you the definition and I have talked very shortly. But in today's session, you will understand what is the exact meaning of the conflicts. There are two types of conflicts. One is a shape-reduced conflict and reduce-reduced conflict. So in SLR parser, what we do? We generate LR0 atoms, then we shift the dot. From that shifting of dots, we generate the DFA, and from DFA, follow set, first set, we generate the parsing table. Same steps are here. Here what we are doing in CLR parser or LR1 parser, we generate the LR1 atoms, canonical set of atoms. We try to shift the dot logically as per the algorithm. Once we get the complete canonical set of items, all items I0 to say IN, we construct DFA just like a SLR type manner. Then from that LR1 atoms DFA, we construct CLR parsing table. It is same thing. Now the computation of LR1 atoms, the logic of computing the goto and closure is slightly modified. Actually, concept is same. Now, this is only for just I am revising. So what is LR1 atom? So LR something like this in blue and red color. So it contains two components. One is called as a I. We know that I is a, you can call it as a initial set or you can call it as a basis set. And A is there. A is a lowercase letter. So it is nothing but it is some lookup symbol. It is a terminal, and you can call it as a token. So first part is called as a LR0 atom, comma, lookup is there. So that composition, that means composition of these two components is called as a LR1 atom. Same thing, minor modification is there. Now, in the last line, I have given you sample LR1 atom. So what is there? There is a production rule, that is I, basis set, separated by comma, and A is there. So A can be any symbol, it can be any lookup symbol, it can be token. So, and A can be of some length, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. It depends on the type of grammar. Now on that side, there is another production, means LR1 atom is there, where epsilon is there. It means that there is no look ahead, or that token is empty. Empty is a symbol, that is epsilon symbol. So this can be structure. So black color production rules at the end is a structure of LR1 atom. It is similar to the LR0 atom. Just it is a attached, token is attached with it. Now, see, same slide is there, but just read the two boxes. Two boxes are there. So what it says, that first component, that black line is first part, I part, is called as a core atom. See, last time I have given you the homework. Try to find the definition of the kernel atom and non-kernel atom. We shall see that, but I suggest you try to search it on your own. Definitely, I will be giving you maybe in some session. And second part is a token, just as I said. So token can be some element from first or follow set. So if someone asks you what is definition of the core atom or core of the atom or core of the LR1 atom, so then core of the LR1 atom is nothing but it is a LR0 atom. So don't confuse it, but it is that it is that way. I can't do anything. Now, suppose there is a production rule like this. For example, I have written that A is giving you alpha and dot is there. Means dot is at the end of the right hand side of the production rule in that particular atom. It means that this is a reduce action. And you are reducing with reference to particular token or look ahead. So suppose A is that there. So A is some look ahead. So see, what is look ahead? Look ahead is nothing but it helps you in selecting the right production rule during the parsing. That is the simple definition. Now, this is theoretical part. This LR1 atom is also called as a viable prefix. This is the definition of viable prefix. Then LR1 atom exists, means it represents the rightmost derivation in reverse. That is there. Means sequence of LR1 atoms represents rightmost derivation. Then one theoretical part is there. That is LR1 parser works in similar way as a LR0 parser, means SLR parser. LR1 atoms resolves pending ship reduce conflicts and reduce conflicts. See, there is a word that is pending. So I will talk about it at the end or maybe in next session. See, what is the beauty of CLR parser? CLR parser is that such that, so when error occurs, so it detects that error immediately before complete occurrence. See, try to understand this word. Before complete occurrence of complete error, उसका पहला पार्ट भी उसने डिटेक्ट कर लिया है, मतलब इट गेसेस कि भाई इसके बाद में सब कुछ एरर आने वाला है, टिपिकली सिंटैक्स एरर. Why? Because it works on look ahead concept. So look ahead concept से CLR पार्सर को एक पावर मिलती है कि एरर को पहले ही स्टेप में उसको डिटेक्ट कर लेता है. Otherwise, in case of the SLR parser or some other parsers, maybe LL parser, top-down parser, or RDP, recursive descent parsers, whatever parsers we have seen, predictive parsers, whatever. So those parsers में क्या होता है कि it encounters complete error and at the end it detects the error. But in case of the CLR parser, it detects in beginning just because with the help of look ahead. So we do picking one symbol ahead during the parsing process. So that this again last line is there. We shall interpret during the actual example. Now again, I have just made it explanatory. Why? Because you can download it and you can take the notes, because many times we face, we don't have definitions. So when someone asks, we don't answer it. We cannot answer it. So that's why I have tried to give it in different angles. So again, this alpha dot beta. Beta can be string, alpha can be string. Dot, that we are using this dot for moving. We are tracing. Then A. So try to distinguish between alpha and A and beta. So that is there. Now, see this diagram, even though you don't understand what it means, but just try to interpret it. See, first red arrow is there. So what is happening is that you are using particular production rule. Say that first red arrow wala production rule. So it means that when you are parsing something. So how you parse? We parse character by character, token by token. We don't parse complete word at a time. We don't parse complete paragraph or control block like if then else, or say some jump or go to or for loop. We don't parse in terms of some block. How we parse? We parse character by character or token by token. So when you are parsing something, just imagine this thing. When you are parsing something, and if your parser knows that A will occur somewhere, A will occur somewhere during the parsing. So that is something called as a pre-guessing. It is kind of guessing. So your parsing tree. See, this is a parsing tree actually. So whatever triangle you are looking, it may be some part of the tree, subtree or whatever. And you know what is alpha and beta. Dot is there. And what is happening? We are shifting that dot during the parsing. No matter when we actually do the parsing, we do how the dot is shifting, but you understand this thing that when we parse with the help of the parsing table, what we do, we shift the buffer atom into the stack. We may do push and pop, and we may change the states. So that thing means ultimately what we are doing, we are traversing the DFA. We are traversing the DFA to recognize particular string of tokens or statement or block. And it means that A is somewhere there, look ahead. And so tree is there. And if there is no look ahead, means epsilon is there, see blue arrow, then your parsing tree will be like this. So anyway, later we shall interpret this. So these trees are nothing but these are the parse trees. It is abstract representation of tree. Now, we want to understand what is a ship-reduced conflict, what is a reduced conflict. So last time I told you that when we generate some parsing table, it may be LL parsing table, or it may be SLR parsing table, or it may be LR parsing table, or LLR parsing table. Every column has some action, like shift is there or reduce is there. One action is there. And if there is nothing, no action, then we just put the dot. But in case of some grammars, it depends on the structure of grammar. If your structure of grammar is typical grammar, then what happens? A cell in that parsing table may contain multiple entries. So that is called as a conflict. So multiple entries can be, two shifts entries can be there in one cell of that parsing table, or in particular cell of that particular parsing table, it may contain shift as well as reduce also in same cell, means multiple entry. There can be triple entries or whatever. It depends on the type of grammar. Means if one entry is there, then there is no problem. If there is no entry, again there is no problem. But if there are multiple entries, then there is a problem. Now, right now, just take this as a homework and try to understand what is the basic problem of these conflicts. It's multiple entries in the parsing table. So this is given grammar, and only 2 non-terminals are there, 4 terminals are there, and I have already given you computed the first and follow set of these 2 non-terminals S and A. And grammar contains 5 production rules. So try to build the SLR parsing table, and you know how to build it. You have to first build the LR0 atoms, then sets I0 to whatever, Then you have to construct the DFA, and from that you have to construct the parsing table. So you will find that in such grammar. So this grammar is actually, this is not a wrong grammar, and it is not a problem of whether grammar is ambiguous or not. That is not a problem. It is a problem of structure of grammar. What is being generated from what non-terminal. So here question is there as a homework. He explain with suitable examples ship reduce conflict and reduce conflict. So for example, this is the best example of the ship reduce conflict. So try to find the better example for reduce conflict. So how? Let us see. So just imagine that this is a SLR parsing table. You know, there is action part and go to part is there. And then all terminals are mapped in action part like A, B, C, T, and $. And only two non-terminals are there, S and A. So that is go to part. So I have not painted it. And here 0 to 10 states are there, means total 11 states are there if you generate the DFA. So here, I don't know whether you are able to see this or not, but I suggest you to take the screenshot of this slide and send it on my WhatsApp. I will understand what is happening at your end. But anyway, see the state number 4. Here, what is happening in column B? There are two entries. In column B, there are two entries. One is a shift 8 and R5. R5 means production rule number 5. I have not numbered it here. So ultimately, it will be A giving you C, small c. So that is there. Means ship reduce conflict is there, right? In same way, if you see the state number 7, here in column A, there are two entries. S10 is there, means ship 10. Next it is a 10. And R5 is there. R5 means there is a last production rule, that is A to C in blue color, that is there. So this thing is called as a ship reduce conflict. Now what happens when we actually parse some statement or string of tokens based on this grammar? Then when such situation encounters, means suppose you are in state 4 and you are reading B from input buffer, then what will happen? You have to decide whether I should shift or whether I should do the reduce operation. You can do only one operation at a time. You cannot do both operations. And you don't know which action will be correct action or wrong action, or which action will be correct and it will lead to the successful parsing of the given statement. So this is a problem that is generally encountered in a SLR mechanism. SLR means simple LR parser mechanism. Whatever examples we have seen, they were simple grammars. But if you use actual grammars like if then else and for, do, repeat while, repeat until, do while, these are the constructs, then it causes a problem. So what happens if you have conflict, maybe reduce conflict or maybe ship reduce conflict, then compilation process stuck-ups. See, here we are only studying about the second phase of the compiler. First is a lexical analysis, second is a syntax analysis. So this is very important, that due to conflicts, we are facing problems. So to avoid this, to avoid the multiple entries into the cell of a parsing table, it may be any parser, it may be SLR, LLR, CLR, or whatever. We are using the concept of look-aheads. So if we use the look-aheads to generate the different states, then we can, what we can do with the help of look-ahead, what we are doing, we can divide that single state into two states. जैसा 4 number की state है, so we can divide it into 4.5 and 4. In same way 7 and 7.5 और 8वीं step अलग रहेगा. like so. So we can divide the conflict states, and that with the help of lookaheads. It is possible with the help of lookahead. Without lookahead, we cannot pre-guess कि conflicts आ रहा है कि नहीं. So this is how CLR parser is important as compared to the SLR parsers. Now we shall see later what are the limitations of CLR parser. So as I told you, every parser has some strong points and limitations are there. So anyway, we should also understand the comparison between the top-down and bottom-up. So I will just read the limitations of top-down parser. So it only judges with the grammatically. It stops when single error, means on the encounter of some error, the parsing process stops. You cannot go ahead. But there are many parsers who can detect the error, correct the error, and produces the correct target code. So top-down parsers are insufficient in that way. Now semantic knowledge. Semantic knowledge means what? When we do syntax analysis with semantics, means for example, there is addition of real number and Boolean number. So this is the wrong thing. The parser cannot detect this. That is a problem. So top-down parser cannot detect the semantic knowledge. It will say that x is equal to y plus z. So it will say that it is a correct statement, but it will not understand that x is a Boolean operator or variable and y is a real variable, and they cannot be added. So that is a limitation of the top-down parser. Then we cannot make the way of ranking means what? We cannot make it efficient derivation or parsing. Then there is a problem of left recursion, removal of the left recursion, and removal of the left factoring. Because if there is a grammar, if it is a typical structured grammar, then every time it is not possible to manually remove the left recursion from the given grammar. If that grammar is small, means a small number of production rules are there, then manually we can remove these left recursions from the grammar. We can transform it into the factored grammars or non-recursive grammar. But if your grammar is very long, then it is very hard. So that is a problem. And if even though you remove the left recursion, so there might be some mistake in the generating new grammar. So if you generate a new grammar which is not equivalent to the previous grammar by this normalization of LR and LF, this LR means removal of left recursion and LF means left factoring, then your compiler may create some problems. Then this is an important term, that is ungrammatical sentences. I will talk about it, but meantime you try to understand what is the meaning of the ungrammatical sentence. So, or we shall discuss it because it will take more than 10 minutes. And last point is there, that is 7th point, that is it is inefficient, means it cannot handle large number of the complexities in programming constructs like if then else, switch, jump, loop, recursive function calls and all that, or parameter passing and all. Many things are there in any programming language, or even integration with the other language. For example, in Python, you can write some C code, means you can write 3 or 4 C language lines, and still you can compile it along with the help of some library. Means you can embed some other language code. Even in C, if you have C program, you can embed some assembly line, assembly statements, assembly ALP language into that C code, and it will work. But if your parser of particular language is a top-down, then it cannot handle such requirements. So I suggest you Google or search the book, standard books, good material, and try to find as number other limitations. There might be 10, 15 limitations. Now, we must understand what are the advantages of the bottom-up parser. So see, I have provided you one PDF on FTP as well as in MS Office resources website. You download it and go to the page number 241, and there are four major advantages of the bottom-up parser. That means one is better error handling. Top-down parser cannot handle errors in better way, efficient way. We have seen different methods like panic mode and phrase level recovery and all that, but top-down parser cannot handle all types of errors in better way. But bottom-up parsers typically like CLR parser or LLR parser can handle errors in very efficiently, and it immediately detects the errors, attacks the errors, generates the message for the proper message for the programmer or developer who is writing code using that language. And most the program language construct, I used to take the like if then else and all that, whatever. All the programming constructs, whatever are there, can be implemented very efficiently in a bottom-up parser. So try to go to this page and take the four major bottom-up advantages of the bottom-up parser. Now this is again a homework. You please take the screenshot of this. So I hope you have taken the screenshot. So first question is that you have to identify. So try to get the definition of LL1 grammar and SLR1 grammar. So actually this is grammar. See, what is SLR1 grammar? The grammar from which we are able to generate parsing table for that grammar, SLR parsing table for that grammar. It means that that typical grammar is a SLR grammar, SLR1 type grammar or SLR2 type grammar, whatever. If there is a one lookahead or one terminal symbol in right side of that production rule. So if you get the standard definition of LL1 grammar and SLR1 grammar, then you can answer this. So best way to answer is that if someone is asking if whether the given grammar is a SLR1 or not, so what is solution? Solution is that you have to generate the parsing table of that typical type of grammar. If you are able to generate that parsing table, it means that that grammar is of that type. And if you are not able to generate it, maybe because of the structure of grammar, because there is a structure of grammar, it has impact. So because of that structure, we cannot generate successfully the parsing table. It means that it is of not that category. So second question is, show that the following grammar is a SLR1 and but not LL1. Means, see, try to recall the Venn diagram. So in that CFG is there, context-free grammars. In CFG, there are two categories, ambiguous grammars and non-ambiguous context-free grammars. Then in non-ambiguous context-free grammar, there is a LL grammar and LR grammar. Again, in that Venn diagram, there is a small circle. There is a SLR grammar, LLR grammar, and CLR grammar, like this. So recall that somewhere I have given in PPT, or if you wish, I can repeat that slide, Venn diagram slide, or you can get that diagram in that book also. So what I suggest is that you prepare 1 or 2 pages. In that, just write LL1 grammar, 2 examples, LL2 grammar, 2 examples, LR2 grammar, 1 example, SLR1 grammar, 2 or 3 examples, CLR grammar, or LR1 grammar, 1 or 2 examples. So in this way, in 1 page or 2 pages, whatever common like expression grammar and all that, whatever you learn in the subject, you just categorize them. So it depends on Venn diagram, subset. ऐसा नहीं रहता कि भाई SLR grammar is not LR grammar. Actually LR grammar जो है वो SLR रहेगा. It is a subset. It's a bigger circle and smaller circle in that bigger circle. Like, so I just want to talk about the TEC. So friends, I know that you I am not sure that how many of you have visited the FTP site. Can anyone tell me right now? How many have you visited the FTP site in using your browser like Chrome or something? Can you raise some hand like Nayan Raktate you have visited? Nobody else? You can talk if you wish. Gargi ji, आपने ये साइट को विजिट किया है? I have given you IP address like 103.107.17.41. अच्छा सुयोग जी आपने देखा है उसको. Anyway, I suggest you, why I'm suggesting you, because there will be practicals. You may have to submit the practicals at a time. I don't know how much time this long time lockdown will continue. So you must visit it. There are sample programs. There are sample, some material is there. And everything is like videos, PPT, PDFs and all that is there. So you should visit it. And I just want to tell you that you have to submit the TEC component. So there will be 3 different categories like case study, programming assignment, maybe mini project, and presentation will be there. Presentation or demo. For example, if you are doing some program or if you are running some tool, it may be Lex or Yak tool at your end, or some other tool like JFlap at your end. Then you can run that tool remotely on your local machine, on laptop or desktop, whatever, and through Zoom or Meet or maybe Google Meet or maybe Microsoft Teams, you can show that, demonstrate, and you can tell how you are using it, what are the features of that tool or software component, or maybe execution of your own program. So I will be giving maximum weightage to that TEC component, presentation or demo. And even if you want to present on some topic, you can create a group of 3 or 4 people. I don't mind. And you can select some topic and you can present it. So for example, if you prepare the total presentation of 20 slides, so everyone should share 3 slides per head in that group. And in this way, what we'll learn, that you will be able to share your desktop, maybe PPT or a presentation or even some execution of some program. So I will be giving you maximum weightage for demonstration or presentation. It may be kind of seminar thing, or it may be some kind of execution of some program or tool. If you use tool like JFlap, I will be giving you directly 30 marks. Believe me. And programming assignments are there. So what I suggest, I have already given you the list last time, but maybe because of lack of time, I may have gone through it very fast. But today, you take the screenshot of these two slides. Total 20 items are there. P means programming assignment, C means case study, S means seminar, and D means demonstration. So for example, point number 10 is there. Executables.com, .exe, .bat, and a.out. See, you know that all are these executable files. .com, .exe, .bat. These files run on Windows environment, and a.out runs on Linux, Android, whatever. Unix type things, Linux type things. So these are executable format, just like a MP3 format, PNG format. Every file has some format. So executable files have some formats. Something called as a header is there, something there, and some footer is there, some checksum is there, and it runs directly. If you type it on the prompt, if you press enter, that program runs. It gets loaded. So if someone demonstrate it, what is difference? For example, com is an executable file. You can go into your machine, go to the system32 directory. In that, there is a drivers folder is there. In that drivers, there are large number of .exe files and .dll file and .com files. Try to see it. Observe their size. Means what I want to say is that you have to compare the execution power of these files. For example, com file, you can generate a com file by a typical procedure. So you can write some program, you can compile it, then you will get exe, and you can convert that exe into com file. So try to understand what is the meaning of that com file. Com file means command file. But try to learn what are the limitations, what are the powers of those com files. See, whatever commands, like, see, in computer, what you do? You do cd, md, delete, you rename some folder. All these are the commands, right? So whatever executables, you are running these files actually. So most of the commands are .com, means mv, means move. So you are running mv.com file. If you are copying something from one folder to another folder, so you do something like this. Copy a colon space d colon, means you are copying something from drive A to drive D. So what is that? It is command. It means it is an executable file. So I will be giving maximum weightage to this. So multiple people, I don't think that there should not be a repetition. But if multiple people opt, even 10, 15, I don't mind. But everybody should take some efforts to learn the concepts from this point number 10, and present it. Or if someone gives case study, means in documentation, that in corner that photo is there, you have to submit maybe 10 to 7 to 5 to 7 pages with some format, some references at the end, and introduction, why you are, means what is the importance of that application and all that, you can submit. So this is one slide. I hope you have taken screenshot. Take screenshot of this. Again, there is a point number 18. So point number 18, it is a JFlap. It is available on the FTP site, our site. You go there, you download it. As I told you, it is simply a jar file. You download it on your desktop, put it on the desktop, just double click it. It will run. some GUI, you will get some GUI. So by using that GUI, you can put any grammar or regular expression, or you can put in some grammar and you can generate some PDA, or you can put some regular expression. You will get the diagram of some DFA or NFA or whatever. So whatever you learned in TOC and some part of SS, you can do through this. Or even you can convert one type of grammar into another type of grammar. For example, suppose there is a CFG grammar, context-free grammar. It is a left linear. I hope that you remember what is a left linear and right linear grammar. Anyway, then you can convert one type of grammar into another type of grammar, equivalent grammar. So that thing, if you are able to do it as a demo from your end, then I will be giving you 30 marks, right? No, kam nahi nahi, jada nahi. But if you submit something, some kind of assignment, some documentation like in this given format, I will be giving you good marks, no problem. And I will be preferring programming assignments more. I will be giving them more weightage because, and I have already given listed here, point number 11, 12, 13, 14. So no doubt. So I suggest to get prepared from these 20 points only. And make sure that you are not repeating it. And second thing, repeating is, you can do something there, but suppose some other person is also taking that particular point, say point number 11, then he should use different technique or some different problem to do that programming. So that is there. Means exact repetition should not be there. Your problem or basic problem on which you are doing some programming, that should be different. But topic will be given here. For example, Python basic GUI. So you can build any GUI like file, open, close, exit, print, like whatever you have menu in a MS Word or maybe Notepad. So you can generate that GUI. Simply GUI. I don't want anything. I just want GUI, basic GUI. So friends, there are 48 slides. We have exhausted all the time, but I am just finishing it. I will not talk anything. I will not tell anything, but I am suggesting you to download this slide, and go through all 48 slides. I have covered complete problem. So before ending, I am just going fast, and tomorrow or maybe in next lecture, we shall cover in detail see, for example, this is a given grammar and we want to build the LR1 component automata and all that. Then we have numbered the production rule. We have computed the first and follow. So this is a previous example. We have already worked on this and we have generated the SLR parsing table for this grammar. But in this example one, we are trying to generate CLR parsing table. Try to note number of states in a SLR. Definitely number of states in SLR are less. But if you use this same grammar to generate CLR parsing table, number of states will be larger. That is the difficulty of the CLR parser. CLR parser is actually difficult to construct. So anyway, I'm just going through it. I'm just surfing it. Then just like that basic set, we are computing I basis set. Then we compute I0 by taking closure. This is the algorithm. Then this is a detailed algorithm. I will talk about what is alpha, beta, and A, and like capital P. Then this is called as a LR1 item. See, everything in the bracket is nothing but it is a production rule separated by comma, and on right side there is something called as a token, or you can call it as a look ahead. So here only one is there. Only one is there. That's why it is called as a LR1. It's one look ahead. And if see, there is a brace bracket, right? So so production rules are same. Means LR0 item that is on the left side is same. So you can club them. You can club them just like this. Means you can do the look aheads with slash. So in this way, you can represent. See here, what you are doing, you are representing 4 plus 2 means 6 atoms. These are those 6 atoms. So this is a way of representation. So there can be large number of slash. Means those many LR1 atoms will be there. So everything in square bracket is called as a LR1 atom. Don't worry, I will talk about it. Then we are computing the go-tos from I0. Then let us say I1, I2, I3, I4. Then we have computed it I4. So I have packed them into a box for understanding. It is for simplicity. In exam, don't do like this. It is because we are online, we are not face to face. So I have to separate them, identify this is I0, this is I1, this is I3. Like so. We are again computing go to from I2 state. So we are getting 3 transitions. So like this. So in this way, we have collected 7 atoms. So 7 white boxes are there. One is a shaded box. So what we are doing, shaded box means we are computing go to for that shaded box. So from that shaded box, I3, we are generating 3 transitions, I8, I3, and I4. So then again, we are considering I6, again 3 transitions. So in this way, we have computed I0 to 9, means total 9 number of canonical sets of LR1 atoms. Canonical sets of LR1 atom. Why 1? Because there is only one lookout symbol in each LR means component. So you can call it as a component, LR1 item component. So this is there. And now total 10 states are there. So that is not a problem. What is problem? We have to identify those states where there is a dot at the end. So here you will find that in yellow boxes, I1, I4, I5, I7, I8, and I9, there is a dot at the end. So please don't worry, I will be with you and we shall see in next lecture in detail. I will everybody will be able to understand what I want to say, but because of such lengthy problems, we are not able to do it in 45 minutes. So I have to take, I am sorry for that. So friends, thank you very much for listening me. And this time, send me the screenshots at your end, maybe mobile phone or desktop, so that I will understand everything is okay going on your side. And if you have some problem, please send me on personal WhatsApp. Nobody is sending me. Only Nayan Raktate asked me one question, and nobody is asking me any question from last 28 sessions. But you just ask me questions. Believe me, I can answer it. Or do not hesitate. I will not scold or something. What I want to say is that whatever I am doing, I am trying to simplify that material. See, anybody cannot understand in one shot. You have to go through it 2 or 3 times, because you know what happened with you. You passed previous session like TOC, so that was a foundation. So that's why we are taking too much time in covering simple concepts. But still, believe me, you will get sufficient material. You will not need to refer some other book from those PPTs and PDF. You will be able to sufficiently get good marks in a university exam. We know what they ask. Anyway, thank you. So I am ending here. So I stop here. Thank you. So send me the screenshots.